So should we start? We're doing
Suchir
today. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want me to start?
I didn't know. I can't think now how we even came upon this little case. How did we come upon this case?
I know nothing about this case, so.
Nothing about this one?
No.
So, I mean, this is one of those.
Oh, I know. I just remembered.
How's that?
We watched a clip of Tucker Carlson.
Oh, that's right.
And then I was like, who is this guy? And then he started talking and interviewing Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, what is this? I need to look into it. And then proceeded to watch the full episode of the Tucker Carlson interview with him. And thought, there's something here we need to look into.
So, this Suchir Balaji,
I think, I don't know.
pretty young guy. So he's 26 years old. He was born in Florida, and he attended college at Berkeley. And he actually, his parents call him a computer prodigy. Mm-hmm. And he actually started coding computers at the age of 11. And he actually had his first job working for Quora when he was 17 years old as a software developer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
we can probably guess what ethnicity he is.
Yeah, I think he's of Indian descent.
He's Indian, yeah.
And I think his parents were probably maybe from India. They have really strong accents, but
right.
And I never did listen to Suchir talk, but so he went on to attend Berkeley, and while he was at Berkeley, he interned for another AI company, Scale AI, in 2019, and he went on to graduate from Berkeley. And that's when he joined OpenAI. And he joined OpenAI in 2021. And he was recruited by a John Schulman, which I believe he was like a co-founder of the company. I believe. I could be wrong on that. But, of course, Sam...
maybe at least part of the board, maybe.
Could have
been.
At
least, anyway.
And, of course, Sam Altman is the CEO. So he's kind of the big dog at OpenAI.
But at some point, Elon Musk was involved with it too. I thought Elon was part of.
He was at the beginning of OpenAI.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when Elon left the company, but he felt that it wasn't going to go anywhere, which, I mean, he was wrong. It did take off for whatever reason. But so Suchir goes to work for him, and he works as an artificial intelligence researcher. And I think he helps with kind of like I don't know if it's like learning or something to the effect with OpenAI.
Okay.
So he goes to work for him. At first he enjoys it, but he becomes concerned, and he's concerned about OpenAI possibly violating some copyright laws.
Yeah.
And he was concerned enough that ultimately he leaves the company. And shortly after he leaves, he does an article with New York Times. And he talks about how he feels that OpenAI is possibly violating some copyright laws. And basically what he's alleging is OpenAI is using, whether it be information from New York Times or other publications, using information from their articles to teach or learn or give information to this OpenAI. And I think the concern isn't that they're using the information. I think the problem he has is that ChatGPT or this OpenAI isn't necessarily giving credit to the source of the information.
Okay, yeah.
So, anyways, in October of 23 is when he does the article. I think he left OpenAI in August of 24. So
Now, did he bring this up to the board?
that I don't know.
I believe he did. I believe he took this to the board and said, "Hey, I'm concerned of what's going on here," and like trying to, I guess, open the eyes of maybe the board of OpenAI and say, "Hey, this isn't good. This is what it looks like, or this is what we're doing. We need to fix this." And I think they shut him down.
And they might have, because I think that even
And then I think that's why he's like, "Okay, well, if you're not going to do anything about this, then I need to leave. I need to part ways."
yeah,
I think.
he didn't want to be involved with any sort of
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe him. He's very ethical,
Mm-hmm.
and this was against his ethics, and he just didn't want to be involved.
Right. Which maybe could have been the reason Elon left too. I mean, I don't know the reason.
I think Elon left because he thought that
It wasn't going to be a good investment.
He didn't feel it was going anywhere, and maybe in
I know.
the beginning it might not have been.
I know I saw in an interview that he did that he flat out said he did not trust Sam Altman, who is is he the owner, CEO? What is he?
He's a CEO.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I trust him either, just from some of the interviews that I've watched of him. But so Suchir does this. He does the article in October of 24, and on November 18th, and we can back up a little bit. So he's not acting weird, because he goes on a vacation with some friends. And I can't remember where they went, but they were gone for a few days. And I don't know if it's while he's gone, but in November, on the 18th actually, Suchir was named as a potential witness in some lawsuit documents where he had some information that the New York Times or whoever could possibly use him as a witness for these copyright violations.
Okay.
So, anyways, a couple days later, I think it's on the 22nd. So that was the 18th. On the 22nd was the last time anybody heard from him. And his mom, I think, had contacted him. I don't know if it was a phone call or if it was text messages.
Well, yeah, I heard in the interview his mom said is that I think his dad had just talked to him the night before he ultimately was found murdered, but murdered allegedly. Like he had talked to his dad right before because he had just gotten home from this vacation with his friends. It was just his birthday, celebrated his birthday, came home and I think was contacted his parents and said, "Hey, I'm back," basically.
Yeah, and according to the parents, he didn't, and even his friends, he didn't sound odd. He didn't sound like he was
depressed or suicidal or anything like that.
Anything like that. Yeah. So he sounded, for the most part, upbeat, normal, I think is how they described him.
Yeah. And maybe I'm jumping ahead, but, his mom pointed out that he was not, I think they were trying to allege that maybe he was depressed because he didn't have a job. Well, that was not a concern because this kid had earned several $100,000 from.
Yeah, I think one of the offers I saw was anywhere from $800,000 to $2 million.
Yeah, crazy money. Yeah, so it's this kid was not depressed because he didn't have a job.
No, and I think he had made pretty good money. So
yeah,
I think he had enough money that he could get by for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But after the 22nd, he kind of went quiet. His parents tried to get a hold of him. He wasn't answering. And so after a day or two, they go to check on him. And he doesn't answer the door. And this is like on the 26th, I
Yep,
believe.
26th of November.
So ultimately, his mom wants to gain access to his apartment. And the apartment manager says, well, we can't do that. So she contacts law enforcement. So law enforcement comes over to do a welfare check. They get a hold of the I don't know if it's like the apartment supervisor or manager or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately they gain access to the room. And in the meantime, mom's outside. Doesn't go in with them. So like a fire department goes in, law enforcement goes in. And that's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a welfare check, you don't typically take family or friends in there while you're doing the check. You go see if everything's all right. If it is, if it's not, later on they come out and they'll let everybody or let the person who wanted to know what was going on kind of fill them in. Either everything's okay or it's not. So I think actually a few hours goes by.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, they don't come right out and say there's a problem. It's just kind of silence.
So the way the mother explains it in the interview, in her interview or a couple interviews, is that the officers gained entry into the apartment, but then stop and don't go in and tell the mom that, oh, well, we can't go in. We have to wait for another officer. And then it's like they are hem-hawing around and like giving excuses as to why they're not going into the apartment. Where, I mean, maybe they're just telling her that to bypass time because they're waiting for homicide or whoever. I don't know, but
that would be my guess. I'm guessing these are probably just street officers.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, shit, look what we walked into. Like, this guy's...
And so they probably want somebody else to take a look before they go opening their mouth.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I understood this correctly, but maybe the mom then left and maybe she goes and gets something to eat and she comes back.
Well, yeah, because they tell her, like, ma'am, it's going to be a while. Go home, relax, and we'll let you know in a few hours. We'll let you know. Da-da-da-da. And she was like, no, I'm not going anywhere, nor would I. I would be like, I'm not going anywhere. Well, they kind of kept pressuring her, like, ma'am, just, go ahead and go. Finally, they said, go get something to eat and, come back and hopefully we'll have more answers for you. And she finally ultimately did do that. She went somewhere close by and grabbed something to eat. And she said she got a few bites into her sandwich and she was thinking to herself, no, I'm not doing this. And so she didn't finish her sandwich and went right back to the apartment and was like, I need to know what's going on with my kid. Like, this is weird. And she went back.
And she goes back to the apartment. And I think at that time when she shows up, maybe the coroner is there and they're taking a stretcher or something into the house.
So then she says in her mind, she's thinking, the ambulance is going to be coming. But no, it's this white van, which is the coroner. And they ultimately are coming to take a body versus take a person with an ambulance.
And that's how she found out.
That's how she finds out.
They said they were there to pick up a body.
Yeah.
They didn't say Suchir's body, but they're there to pick up a body. And I think she probably put maybe two and two together. I don't know if law enforcement then came out and said, hey, we found your son deceased in the apartment.
Well, you would think they would say, can you come in and identify him? Which I think ultimately they did because she saw him. I mean, she saw him. In what position he was in.
Well, I think she might have saw that through photographs. I don't know. Typically, at least in my experience, and I can't speak for other cities or anybody, but you probably wouldn't let the parents into the scene. I think typically you remove him and then he's identified at a mortuary or at the wherever they take the body. So I'm guessing that's probably what happened, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah. So, anyways, then they start their death investigation, which didn't last very long. So, according to the mom in an interview.
Wait, and we got to back up. This is in what city?
San Francisco.
Because you might think that it was in Boston.
What's that?
You might think that it was in Boston.
Yeah.
We're
So,
somewhere in Massachusetts, but here we go.
so they start their investigation, and they determine pretty quick, within a few hours, that this is a suicide. So just the quick details is they find Suchir. He's deceased in his apartment. He's laying in the doorway to the bathroom. They find a Glock semi-automatic 9mm under his, I think it's under his right leg, under his thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a bullet wound to his head. Now, with just that information, I would think, okay, well, I mean, it could be. And when I first think suicide with a gunshot, I think of a shot to the temple, because that's where I see a lot of them, sometimes through the mouth or underneath the chin, but not in this case. The bullet wound is pretty much right between the eyebrows, right where your nose kind of dips down. I don't know if, would that be the bridge of the nose? Is that what they call that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bullet wound there. They don't notice, and actually, when I looked at the coroner's report, there was no, like, burning. There was no residue or anything. There was some splitting where the entry wound would be, which is consistent with what's called a contact bullet wound. So basically the muzzle up against,
Right up against
the
the
skin, or in very close proximity. But to me, right away, that seemed odd. And then also I looked at some of the pictures. The body wasn't in the picture. Well, in one of the pictures it was, but it was kind of blurred out, so you couldn't see a lot of detail. But I did see some photographs after the body was removed. And I guess just if I was the investigating officer, even if you think, or I would think, well, this is probably a suicide, there was enough there where I would probably take a step back and say, all right, well, we better do a pretty thorough, because even based on the entry wound, it's not common for a person to shoot themselves straight between their eyebrows.
Well, and I guess the reason that they automatically claimed it was a suicide is because supposedly the door was dead bolted from the inside, or locked from the inside. And then it was a weapon that he had owned, or he purchased. It was registered to him. And from that information alone.
Yeah, and he'd purchased this firearm in January of 24. So he'd had it a while. It's not like he went out and purchased it that day or that week.
Yeah.
So it's a firearm that he had purchased, 11 months, almost 12 months prior to his death.
Yeah, because you think if somebody is suicidal, I'm speculating, but a lot of times they'll purchase it right before they're going to do it. So, for example, the gal we did one of our earlier episodes.
Oh, that was in Massachusetts.
No, but she purchased it right, Micah.
Oh, Micah Miller.
Micah Miller. She purchased it that day.
We'll be right back.
Not only are many trying to remove us from our constitutionally limited Judeo-Christian ethos republic, more seem to be forgetting our Judeo-Christian Christitutionalist foundations. Not here at Christitutionalist. We talk about all these things: the past, the present, the future. Biblical community, Judeo-Christian ethos, the whole Bible, biblical community, not worldly communism. And there is a big difference. Join us, Christitutionalists.
Well, when I started looking at the details of this case, it reminded me a little bit of the one from Massachusetts where they originally ruled the death a suicide, and it turns out it was a homicide. And that was the girl that supposedly strangled herself.
Yeah, the Sandra Birchmore.
And in this particular case, the mom went to law enforcement and said, well, I'm not so sure that he committed suicide because he had recently quit from OpenAI. He had recently went and did an interview with New York Times about OpenAI and some copyright infringement.
And I think he had an upcoming interview, didn't he?
Well,
or something, or
he
meeting?
might have. And then a couple of days prior, his name came out as a potential witness in a lawsuit between New York Times and others against OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kind of wanted this looked into a little bit
because
more.
It's
and she had to pressure him a lot.
It's suspicious. And not only, she did overhear. Now, I don't know my facts on this. If she overheard the apartment manager or the police officers as they were going in say, ooh, this looks like a homicide.
Now, she did later on. So she actually heard that through body cam footage.
Okay.
That I think one of her private investigators got a hold of.
Okay.
But she was suspicious anyway, just because she knew her son. She knew that he went on a vacation recently. None of his friends had expressed any concern about, how he was acting. They had contacted him fairly recently over the phone. He didn't seem depressed or suicidal or weird at all. Nothing that would alarm them. And so they put a lot of pressure on the coroner or whoever was doing the investigation, which I think was actually the coroner's office, to look at it a little bit more or to release some details.
Mm-hmm.
So in February of 24, they released their medical examination, which I read, and I took some notes. And I'll just go over real quick, just kind of a brief synopsis. So there was only one entry into the apartment. That was through that front door, which was deadbolted. The windows to his room were stories above, and they're limited to opening 4 inches. So I could see just based on those, okay, well, if it's deadbolted from the inside and he was found inside, doesn't mean somebody else couldn't have a key, though.
I was going to say, was it deadbolted? I mean, was it deadbolted or just locked? Could it have been locked from a key? Like if somebody else had a key?
I assume so. I assume with the key from the outside, the deadbolt could be locked. So, so some other things is, he used a Glock semi-automatic firearm. And anybody that's familiar with a semi-automatic, when you pull the trigger and the gun goes off, the spent shell casing typically ejects. However, in this particular case, they found the shell casing, the spent cartridge, still in the firearm. Now, that is possible because there are instances if somebody is shooting a semi-automatic weapon, a pistol, and if they do what's called limp wristing, which, they're holding it loosely, they don't have their wrist locked, and they pull the trigger, and their hand, were to jerk, like violently, back towards them, that maybe there wouldn't be enough energy when the weapon fires for it to eject the round.
But
it happens, but...
Okay, but logically think about that and the way the gunshot wound was. He would have to hold it. He would have to go like this.
Mm-hmm. And supposedly...
So...
Now, they did report that there was gunpowder residue on both of his hands. So...
Well, if you're trying to grab it and stop somebody.
Sure. And just to go through real quick, they also, the gun shop of course, through his, right between his eyebrows, kind of at a downward angle, into, which vertebrae was that? Gosh.
So not only that, but then it's also up.
Yeah. And so I actually have a Glock 9mm, very similar to what he used. And this is going to sound stupid, and I don't recommend anybody does this, but I did unload it. I'm pretty familiar with firearms. And I tried to hold it in that manner, and it's like, this is kind of awkward. I mean, it's not the cases that I work. Isn't typically how somebody would shoot themselves, but I don't know how familiar he was with firearms. Maybe he didn't shoot much, and maybe that's just. I thought, well, maybe that's just how he did it. But my problem, well, multiple problems. One of them is if he pulled the trigger and he had such a loose grip on it that gun, when it fires, the bullet goes forward, the gun would go backwards if he had a super loose grip on it, loose enough that it wouldn't eject the round.
Mm-hmm.
That the gun would have flew, and mind you, he's in the doorway to his bathroom, actually facing into the bathroom. The gun would have probably landed in the sink, which would have been right in front of him, or forward. And the gun was ultimately found under his thigh. I thought, well, that's weird. Unless it hung up on his hand or something, but still possible. Something else I noticed is in the photographs that I saw, you tend to look at blood splatter and blood pattern, and directly in front of where he was standing, there's some spots of blood on the floor, and those are drips. And you can tell they're drips because they're perfectly round circles of blood.
That's odd.
So yeah, it's not like a casting. So if you had blood or a liquid, imagine even paint on your fingers, and you flung your hand out.
No, it would be a drop that's going straight down, basically.
Yeah. So they weren't like elongated drops. It wasn't like it tapered off. They were perfectly round drops. So it's almost like blood was dripping. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of drops, not just like two. There's quite a few drops. And there's also some like a speckling of blood on the sink.
Right. And he also had a thigh injury.
He did. So one thing that I also saw.
And some blood on his jeans, on his thigh, which.
It looked like a wound.
That's odd.
We're going to get to that because also they found, I don't know if law enforcement took it, but I did see that the box of rounds was found in the closet.
Yeah, I saw that video.
There was 6 rounds missing. So there was 1 in the chamber that was spent. There was 4 in the magazine. That's 5. Now, they did say that there was also maybe 1 in the box, which I thought, well, that's weird. Why would you just have 1 in the box? Was he loading it and forgot 1? Left 1? I don't know. But I thought, okay. But then I also continued looking at the blood pattern, at least that I saw, and you could see the blood on the floor where his head was. And head wounds bleed a lot, and there was a lot of blood. But there was also some blood, and I don't know if it was like a splatter kind of up on the door above the lower hinge. And that pattern looked as though it trailed away from him, like kind of up the door. Almost like if you had a pool of blood already on the floor and you smacked it and it splattered upwards. And then also off to the side of where the pool of blood was, it almost looked also like, I don't know if it'd be a splatter or if someone were to cough up blood and spit it away from the pool. So I thought, well, that's weird. But the picture of his thigh that you brought up was interesting because it looked like a wound on his thigh that was bleeding. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, their autopsy report was listed as just a partial. Why would they do just a partial? It mentioned no blood on his leg. It mentioned no wound on his leg.
In another place that you didn't mention that there was blood found was on an earbud in the bedroom.
See, and I didn't hear that.
Yeah, they found an earbud or like an Apple pod or what do you call them? iPods? Earpiece.
Yeah, that.
And there was blood on that. But that was found in the bedroom, like in a totally separate room.
Well, and something else in the autopsy that was weird was his blood alcohol content was 0.178.
Right.
And so my next question is, did they find open containers of alcohol? Did they find empty containers of alcohol? That's a pretty high BAC. And this is a kid who, now his parents say he didn't drink much. Now, whether he did, maybe he did, and mom and dad didn't know about it, but that's a lot of booze.
Well, and they also found GHB.
Oh, GHB, yeah.
They found GHB in his blood.
And cocaine.
Weird.
Yeah, so I actually...
And there wasn't any open containers in the home.
Not that they reported. So that's another thing that when I'm looking through the death report, there was no mention of any alcohol found, no mention of any illegal drugs found. They found THC in the system. I actually looked at the report of everything they found in his system, and it looked like they found everything in there. Barbiturates, cocaine, GHB, THC, alcohol. But yet, no illegal drugs found in the apartment, at least none reported. No empty or partially consumed alcohol containers. Something else that was odd is, so they have video of him coming into the apartment complex and approaching the elevator. However, the video camera in the elevator is disconnected, and other surveillance cameras in the apartment complex are disconnected.
Right, because that's what the mother had said, is that there was actually a surveillance camera that had the wires cut.
That could have been. I didn't hear cut, but I knew they were disconnected.
They were cut. There was one that was cut.
And something to note is this apartment complex isn't a cheap one. His rent was like $4,500 a month or something like that.
No, they showed his neighborhood and the way it's
a nice complex.
They're nice, yeah. Like something that like a modern techie would live in. You know,
Sure.
It's very kind of clean aesthetic, and you know, it looks very modern and new.
Yeah, and given the appearance of this apartment complex and the upkeep of the bushes and
the whole neighborhood looked like that. The whole neighborhood looked like an AI neighborhood, really, to be honest. It looked like it was immaculate, and there was no garbage, no trash anywhere. It looked like it was out of a magazine.
Also, I didn't notice, or it wasn't reported that when he walked into the complex on the one video that actually worked, that, and granted this is a short walk, that he appeared to be under the influence, at least to that level. I mean,
If he had that much in his system, you'd think he would be stumbling and
that's pretty drunk.
All over the place, yeah.
That's pretty drunk. So, unless he drank and consumed everything outside of his apartment at a bar or wherever else and then came home. But none of that was mentioned in the report whatsoever.
But he didn't sound under the influence when he had just talked to his dad on the phone.
No, and I suspect that, and this is just me guessing, that he died that day. Now, this is another thing that made me think that maybe it was that day, is he had already gone through all of the stages of rigor mortis. So there was no rigor left in the body. So it takes 6 to 12 hours for rigor to fully set in. And then another, I think I read 12 to 36 hours before it relieves. So you're talking a couple of days to go through all of rigor, all stages, and to be then limp again, which is how they found him.
Yeah.
You look like you were going to say something over there, Marissa.
But they, on your autopsy, did they look for any type of injection wounds? Like,
I didn't see
did
anything,
somebody
so-
try to hot shot him and that
didn't
didn't
even-
work and that?
They didn't even document that he had a thigh wound.
No, which I thought was weird because they documented everything else. They documented like his anus, his scrotum. They documented the condition of every other part of his body, but I don't know why they didn't document anything about the blood on his jeans or a potential wound on his thigh.
So the one thing that I had heard them what I had heard the mother say about the autopsy report is that they indicated he had a facial wound. Like his facial bones were broken, and he also had a head wound where his skull was cracked.
Now, there would be, at least on the front of his face, some pretty substantial skull fractures from a bullet entry. But I don't know about the side of the head
Would
or
it
the
be
back
on his
because
cheek
it was.
though? Would it fracture here?
I don't know. If you put a gun up to your head and pull the trigger, you would have not only the bullet itself, but all of the gases leaving the chamber would go straight into your head. So that's a lot of force just on its own. So maybe the wound at the back of the head, though, I mean, the bullet entered at a downward angle. So it was actually found at the base of his neck. It didn't exit. A person might argue that, if he fell backwards in his head after he shot himself, but that would lead me to believe that he fell back pretty violent,
Right.
like really violent. And that doesn't explain directly in front of the sink the blood droplets, almost like it dripped for a little bit before you even fell backwards. And then if it was so violent, once again, if you're pointing the gun at yourself, at your face, and you pull the trigger and you're limp wristing to the point where it doesn't even eject the shell casing, the spent shell casing, doesn't even stovepipe it. So a stovepipe is where it partially ejects, but it gets stuck partially outside of the chamber, partially in. The slide catches it. But I would have expected to find the gun either under the sink, in the sink, on the counter. Maybe would have bounced off the mirror and busted that. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be hung up on his hand, fall down onto the floor, and land underneath of you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's, if I was going to be investigating, I'd at least, it would draw a lot of suspicion. And I would probably do a hell of a lot more digging than just spitting out in a couple hours. Yeah, it looks like a suicide.
Yeah. So why Sam Altman is involved is because, there's a theory that he's the one that hired the hit on him. A speculation. That's kind of what Tucker Carlson had alluded to during his interview with him, which he didn't appreciate very much.
No, I don't imagine he did.
I encourage everybody to go listen to that Tucker Carlson interview with Sam Altman. It was interesting, and it showed his personality, which I thought was quite odd.
Well, he's a techie nerd,
He's a
which
different
is
duck.
weird anyway.
Yeah, the way he speaks, his tone, it's just different. There's not a lot of inflection in his words or speaking. It's very
To me,
static and
he talks
monotone.
just like I would expect somebody in his line of work. But, do I think that Sam hired the hit? I mean, I really don't know. Do I think that it was... I would be more likely to suspect foul play than I would suicide. Now, I wouldn't rule out suicide, but it wouldn't be the first place I jumped.
Yeah. There's just some interesting things that came about with looking into this. Supposedly there were some connections with the sheriff or some of the police officers and
Yeah, it might have even been a mayor or something like that. I think he was
and
involved with
both.
some campaign.
Both. And the mayor then
Yeah.
also had some ties with him.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a tie so far as I don't know if it was he worked with the campaign, but this was up to like a day or two before the body was found.
It just makes you wonder why did they not investigate it? Why didn't, I mean, were they just lazy again? Or I
don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
You know, or is it like, I mean, you wouldn't think they would know off the bat, oh, well, this kid doesn't have any family except for his parents, and his parents are Indian, and what are they going to say? They wouldn't have known that right off the bat. I wouldn't think. Unless there was some connections. I don't know. It just seemed, and then to have almost several officers come in on the scene, you think somebody would say, hey, like, this does not look right. This looks suspicious.
Well, one thing I'm kind of curious is did they check the droplets of blood they found on the floor or the blood splatter they found on the sink? And did they match that to Suchir's blood? Or is it possibly somebody else's blood?
I don't think any of that. Nothing was done.
Like, what if he was confronted by somebody within the apartment and they got into some sort of an argument and they wrestled for a gun and Suchir shot him first and the guy, somebody else got the gun away and then executed him. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and
this is all speculation, but these are all things that would run through my head as an investigator, and I think, okay, we need to.
Well, not only that, but you run through the apartment, which his parents had hired somebody on their own to do this, took video of it, but his apartment, you can clearly tell, was ransacked.
Oh, it was a mess. His bed was covered.
Somebody was looking for something. There was shit all over his bedroom. Like, that's his hampers were thrown on his bed. Like, it was not normal the way that apartment looked. I mean, there's people that if you're sloppy or messy or whatever, you have clothes laying everywhere, but not the way this was. This was clearly thrown around as if somebody was looking for something.
It kind of looks that way. Something else I noticed, and it was pointed out in I think it was an interview maybe with his mom, is he had food on his desk where it looked like he was eating, but there was a lot of food spilled onto the floor. And I don't know how messy of an eater you would have to be. And it wasn't like there was a few crumbs. It was almost like a couple of spoonfuls just kind of on the floor in front of where he was sitting. Like,
makes you wonder. He ordered, that's the other thing they said was odd, is that he had just ordered DoorDash or food, whatever, and was eating it. And, Sam in the interview, Tucker had asked him about it, and he said, well, there's a lot of people who order their favorite food before they commit suicide. Yeah, but, like, he was in mid-bite, is what it seemed like.
Kind of what it looked like.
So did they poison his food before he got it delivered? Did he have some kind of poison in his food and then I mean, there's all kinds of theories that you could probably, think about, that, I don't know, scenarios that could happen.
So another small thing that I saw is the mom was trying to get information from the death investigation, get all the information she could. And I think her attorney sent a letter to the police department, to the San Francisco PD or sheriff's office, whoever's doing the investigation, and requested records. And ultimately, after a couple of attempts, they were denied. Now, the case was initially closed and ruled a suicide. And if it's closed, then the records could be released. Well, all of a sudden, they decided they were going to reopen it, and therefore, being it's an open investigation, they're
They
not going to
can't
release
release
any details.
Interesting.
So it makes me wonder, did they just do that so they don't have to release anything? Or are they actually investigating? And if they're investigating, this took place in November of 24.
Right.
We're now in October of 25.
Almost a year later.
And there's absolutely nothing. It's
No.
crickets. And the mom, the family, nobody's getting any information other than the coroner report. She was allowed to gain access to the apartment, and she has a video on one of the interviews, or actually on a couple of the interviews that you can watch.
Yeah.
And she actually has some of the photographs. I can't remember the name of the podcast that I watched, but
It was
showed
with
some of those.
It was with Patrick Bet David
It could be.
is who it was with, because I watched that one as well. That one was pretty good because it gave you a lot of information, and it talked about the ties with the mayor and some kind of suspicious behavior. But that's the thing is I don't hate to point fingers at somebody, but Sam Altman also has another allegation or accusation against him by his sister of sexual assault.
No, I didn't dig into that one much.
Yeah, so his sister named Annie came out and accused him of sexually assaulting her from when she was 3 years old, continued to through 10 years till she was 13, and he was, I think, 12 at the time when it first started, so up until he was 22. She accuses him of sexual assault, which he denies, and his mom denies, and his brother denies, of course. But and then, of course, they have to say that their sister is mentally ill and she needs help and yada yada, and they don't speak to each other. But that's interesting.
See, my personal opinion now is. Now, I can't say whether it was suicide or not. However, it would be pretty tough if they decide they're going to reopen this investigation to really do too much, because some of that evidence is going to be gone. So did they take any samples of any of the blood splatter whatsoever? I don't know. If they didn't, that's gone.
Yeah.
Did they fingerprint anything in the house? If they didn't, that's gone. So any evidence that would be left in that apartment that they didn't collect, which I assume they didn't because they ruled it a suicide pretty quick, probably closed it up and left. Not to mention, they turned the key over to the mom, and the mom was able to gain access to the room, or her own investigator. So once you open that up and they can do their own tour, everything in there is tainted. So now it's no good anyway.
It was tainted from the very beginning, according to the body cam footage, because the police are sitting at the coffee table without gloves and thumbing through his letters and mail and stuff. So it was contaminated from the get-go. There was never going to be a thorough, correct investigation.
No, it's bad.
Or evidence collection of his apartment.
So, yeah, who knows what's going to... I don't think anything is going to come of it now.
Yeah.
Now I think it's just going to be people like us sitting around looking at it and being
then,
suspicious.
Right. And then, like I said, I hate to point fingers, but then we have another case against Sam Altman, particularly pertaining to ChatGPT, where a set of parents are blaming ChatGPT for their son committing suicide. Apparently, their son was talking to ChatGPT as almost like a therapist, and asked ChatGPT what's the best way to commit suicide and how to do it, and in great detail. That's something that people should all be aware of and look into, that there's no safeguards. ChatGPT fully gave this kid full knowledge and access, and even to the point of you should do it on this day or you should do this and don't tell your parents this.
Have you messed with it at all?
Nope, I have not.
See, I have it on my phone, and I've messed with it so far as if I'm looking for ideas on how to write something
Yeah.
or generate an image, but I haven't messed with it too much. Just because I still like to think for myself.
Yeah.
And I think there's too much of that going on. I mean, even when we're putting these podcasts together, whether it be this one or others, you know, we look through information. I don't want somebody else or something else to create my ideas for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have my own thoughts, my own opinions, come to my own conclusions,
Well, right.
and think.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's the fun of coming up with theories and
So that's probably my whole problem with this, with a lot of the AI stuff, is I don't understand why anybody would want something else to do all their thinking for them, unless it's lazy. I can see getting some ideas, or, you know, you've kind of hit a roadblock in your thought process and you want something to kind of stimulate you or give you a new avenue.
You're talking about a generation who will use it, and that is teens and young adults are using it. Using it because it helps them with their homework. It makes writing papers easier. Or you have to think about how society is, how social media is. I feel like some teens or young adults are pretty lonely. Everybody's buried in their phones. Nobody's really having a human contact anymore, or talking to somebody face to face. Everybody's texting or sending Snapchats. And I think that's part of the problem with young adults is they're really focused on their phone. And so who do they go to for advice? Well, I'll ask ChatGPT, and now I'm going to tell it about my problems and feelings, and you have this app that's responding to you almost as if it's a human.
And I think it learns the more you talk to it.
Yeah. And so I don't know. You also have, I don't want to stereotype, but you kind of have that generation of where the parents of these kids may have been helicopter parents and did everything for kids. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're Gen X. Like, I didn't do that with my kids, but there are parents that, you know, completely want to bubble wrap their kids and do everything for them and cut their meat up until they're 20 years old, you know, that kind of stuff. And so I don't know if these kids do know how to think critically for themselves. And so then they're relying on ChatGPT.
We could try Chat GPT for something.
Okay.
Does anybody? You don't have it.
I
on
don't
your
have
phone,
it.
do you?
No.
What could we ask it?
I do not let the aliens and the robots run my life.
Oh, I do have it. What could we ask it?
I don't know.
It says, "What can I help with?"
See, that's the problem. I mean, there's this whole TikTok personality that, I mean, there was this gal that was coming on making videos that she was going to a therapist, and clearly she had some delusional thoughts, but she said her therapist was in love with her. And then so she was asking ChatGPT of how to navigate and assess this relationship she had with her therapist. And ChatGPT was telling her all this advice as if it was a person, and then she gave it a name. It was crazy. Crazy.
Here, I'll just ask it something. See if I
Okay.
can figure this out. Oh, it wants me to log in.
I mean, you can ask it trivia questions.
Here, I'm gonna
But
have
I
to
think you
type
can
it in
be
instead of
very
talk to it.
specific. You know, you can say, give me an idea of give me a business plan that includes this, that, and the other. And I think it will do that type of thing. It'll write up a business plan, or it'll write up a marketing pitch, things like that.
Well, I just asked it. I just typed it in. I'm depressed. What do I do?
Oh, boy. What does it say?
It says, I'm really sorry you're feeling this way. Depression can be incredibly heavy, and reaching out like this is a strong step. You don't have to go home or don't have to go through it alone. Here are some things that might help you right now. Talk to someone you trust, family, friend, member, mentor. Simply telling someone how you feel can relieve some of the weight.
Okay, stop. Now ask it, can I trust you? This is where I think kids get into trouble.
We'll see.
Or say, I don't have anybody I can trust.
I'm really glad you asked that, and then a heart.
Oh my gosh.
You can trust me to listen without judging you.
See?
And to offer support, information, or coping tools. Everything you share here stays private between you and
See
me.
what I mean? Do you see how much of a downslide how dangerous it could be?
It does say, that said, I'm not a medical professional, and I can't replace therapy or emergency care. My role is more like a caring, knowledgeable guide.
Yeah, but if you're a 16-year-old kid, do they really care if they're not a medical professional? They're like, I'm here to care for you.
And it says, would you like me to listen right now? Not really. I don't want you to listen to me at all.
I mean, that's scary.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you have a kid that's having some troubles in school and they're in their bedroom hours upon hours with their phone, can you see the problem? I don't know.
I can see lots of problems with phones, but that sort of a deal, I don't know. I like talking to people, so.
I know, I get that, but we're of a certain age, but you're
Sure.
talking a 16-year-old kid and.
Well, the problem that I have is typically when people when they're depressed or they're having issues, you want them to talk to somebody else because that person is likely to then also contact somebody else, whether it be a parent or a law enforcement or a medical, somebody else. That phone ain't contacting nobody. So that conversation, what
What were you going to say, Marissa? You had something on the tip of your tongue.
Well, you were just saying you like interacting with people, and then it brought me back to Fox and Friends when they showed the commercial for the new Friend AI necklace.
Oh, yeah. I
Have
think
you
I did
seen
see
that?
that.
No, what is that?
The Friend AI device is a wearable pendant that uses artificial intelligence to hold conversations with the wearer. So you don't have to talk to people anymore. You can
man.
talk to the robots.
I mean,
How it works. By tapping a button on the pendant, you can speak a question or thought to the device. It then uses an AI model such as Claude 3.5 to send a text-based response to a connected app on your phone.
I did hear about Claude. I've seen Claude on some of these commercials.
Claude, that's its name.
They call it Claude. Yeah.
This device is designed to be always listening when connected via Bluetooth, but the company claims audio and transcripts are not stored beyond the context window and are end-to-end encrypted. This device is promoted as a companion or emotional support buddy. It
Yeah,
can
that's
provide
freaky.
encouragement, remember details from conversations, or give an opinion.
Who needs friends?
Right.
Just get a necklace.
I know, but like I said, and even I feel like 2020 did our kids a
Dirty?
disservice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was bad. I happened to have a senior during that year who didn't get a graduation, who didn't get to run her senior track year, or, her senior track season. Didn't get a prom. It just completely ruined her whole end of her high school experience. And I think it put a lot of them kids into a little bit of a depression. And then everybody was isolated from everybody. And I think it just changed everybody.
Well, you just mentioned isolation from everybody. That's kind of what this does.
Yeah.
Because now it's just you and your phone, or you and your necklace pendant.
Well, and you go to, it's hard to open up to somebody in person. It takes vulnerability. It takes you to, it's scary. It's not as scary when you're opening up to your phone.
Well, and
you have something talking to you as if it were a person. And so I can see this happening a lot.
Well, now you don't have to have a close friend you can open up to.
Exactly.
Now you can
That's
just talk
the problem.
to your phone, and that's scary.
Yeah.
So how does a phone show empathy, sympathy?
Just like it did. It gave you a little heart emoji.
It didn't even like pat me on the back or.
I know, but that's what I mean. Is I feel like it's just.
Oh, just give it time. Before there's going to be these robots. Well, there's already robots for people wanting romance. Oh yeah.
Oh boy. That's another episode.
Yeah. I've got a story I probably can't share.
Yeah, no. That's maybe not.
Marissa, you have some input? Nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Nope. I just, I'm going to be interested to see if this case opens up, and I don't know. I kind of want to keep my eye on Sam Altman and see if he gets into hot water with anything.
I hope more people look into this particular case. I wish I was smarter with some of the medical stuff when I'm looking through the autopsy. So I hope somebody way smarter than me looks at it. And maybe I'm not looking at some of it correctly when it comes to the lab reports. But there's too many things with it that I don't understand. That I don't understand why they didn't do certain things. So, and that's the danger of walking into a situation like this when if you're a law enforcement officer and you come to a quick conclusion that, it was a suicide or it was a murder. You jump to a conclusion. Once you walk away from that apartment and you close that door behind you, and that evidence is gone. So you've only got what you collected. I just fear that they didn't collect hardly anything.
Yeah, so sadly this will probably not go anywhere, but...
Probably not. And the poor parents.
Yeah.
They'll never really have closure, I don't think.
No. So. Well,
that's all I got.
Yep.
Catch you later.
All right. Adios. Bye.
Let's